Long before it kept our drinks cold or preserved our food, ice was a primordial force of absolute destruction. For most of Earth's existence, frozen water was an unyielding, silent ruler that sculpted mountains and erased civilizations. Trapped within these subterranean vaults lies an unbroken record of our planet's climate, a frozen archive where every annual layer holds the atmosphere of an era long forgotten. During the Pleistocene, ice pushed humanity to the absolute brink of extinction. Our early ancestors did not view the freeze as a resource, but as a relentless predator creeping from the poles. But when the great glaciers began their slow retreat 12,000 years ago, they left behind a transformed world and an opportunistic species ready to master the cold. The story of artificial cold began not with machines, but with a simple realization: cold preserved life, while heat brought decay. Over 4,000 years ago, in the desert plains of Mesopotamia, early engineers discovered evaporative cooling, using the dry night air to cool earthen jars of precious water. By 1780 BC, King Zimri Lim of Mari built the world's first recorded ice house near the Euphrates, a luxury reserved strictly for royalty and religious rites. In ancient Persia, master builders created the yakchal, massive mud brick domes engineered to freeze water during desert nights using wind catchers and evaporative channels. Cold had become the ultimate status symbol. To serve frozen delicacies in the middle of a scorching desert was to demonstrate complete mastery over nature itself. The Roman Empire transformed ice into an industrial luxury. Fast relay runners rushed packed mountain snow from the Apennines directly to the villas of Rome before it melted. Emperor Nero was so obsessed with cold refreshment that he constructed subterranean snow vaults beneath his palace, mixing snow with honey and fruit juices to create early sorbets. On the other side of the world, Tang Dynasty China established strict imperial decrees governing the winter harvest of lake ice, storing thousands of tons in underground straw vaults. With the fall of Western Rome, Europe lost its grand ice transport networks. Cold reverted from a luxury back into a terrifying winter threat that dictated human survival. For centuries, Europeans relied almost entirely on salting and smoking to preserve food. Natural ice was rarely stored, limited to castle vaults during severe winters. During the Renaissance, Italian scholars translating classical texts rediscovered the principles of thermochemistry, specifically that adding salt to snow lowered its freezing point significantly. The discovery of endothermic freezing mixtures allowed scholars to produce artificial cold on demand for the first time, laying the groundwork for experimental physics. By the mid-17th century, the planet plunged into the Little Ice Age. Harsh winters destroyed crops, froze major rivers, and turned ice into a geopolitical weapon. In 1658, the Swedish Empire achieved the impossible, marching an entire army of 12,000 men, horses, and heavy artillery across the frozen Baltic Sea to launch a surprise attack on Denmark. Nature itself became the ultimate defender. Nations that possessed cold-hardened armies could utilize winter as an impassable defensive wall against invader forces. In 1812, Napoleon's Grande Armée was dismantled not by Russian steel, but by general winter. Temperatures plummeted to minus 30 degrees, freezing supply lines and men where they stood. In the early 19th century, a visionary eccentric named Frederick Tudor realized that ice was not a localized hazard, but a global commodity waiting to be exploited. Mocked as a madman, Tudor earned the title the Ice King by shipping thousands of tons of New England lake ice across equatorial waters to the hottest regions of the globe. The secret to surviving a 4-month tropical voyage lay in sawdust, a waste product of New England lumber mills that served as near-perfect insulation against equatorial heat. When Tudor ship Tuscany arrived in Calcutta in 1833, locals were stunned to touch ice that had traveled 16,000 miles without melting, permanently altering global trade. While the natural ice trade boomed, scientists sought the Holy Grail, a machine that could produce cold on demand, anywhere on Earth, independent of seasons. In 1834, American inventor Jacob Perkins built the first functioning vapor compression refrigerator, using ether to extract heat from a closed loop. The paradox of thermodynamics was revealed. To create cold, one had to force a volatile liquid to boil, sucking energy out of its surroundings. Driven by a desire to cool tropical fever victims in Florida, Dr. John Gorey constructed an ice-making machine, securing the first U.S. patent for mechanical refrigeration in 1851.
By the late 19th century, natural lake ice could no longer meet the demands of exploding urban populations. Massive steam-driven ice plants rose across industrial cities. The invention of the ventilated refrigerator railcar by Gustavus Swift transformed global agriculture, allowing fresh meat to be shipped thousands of miles without spoiling. Ice had become an everyday necessity for urban survival. The Iceman was now as essential to city life as the milkman or the postal worker. Home refrigeration began with the wooden icebox. Though passive, it kept produce fresh and lowered childhood mortality rates by preventing milk from spoiling in summer heat.
Early home refrigerators were dangerous beasts. Using toxic refrigerants like ammonia, methyl chloride, and sulfur dioxide, a single pipe leak could wipe out a sleeping family. Enter Thomas Midgley Jr. In 1930, he introduced Freon, a non-toxic, non-flammable miracle gas that promised to make home refrigeration entirely safe and universal. Post-war America embraced Freon wholeheartedly. The refrigerator transformed from a luxury appliance into the absolute centerpiece of the modern domestic lifestyle. Behind the scenes, humanity constructed the cold chain, an unbroken, globally integrated temperature-controlled supply line stretching from farm to fork.
Beyond food, cold became the fundamental guardian of modern medicine. Vaccines, blood plasma, and organ transplants exist entirely within carefully monitored Arctic microenvironments. Today, the digital world relies on cold to survive. Without vast industrial chilling systems to cool heat-generating microprocessors, the internet would melt down within seconds. At temperatures fractionally above absolute zero, physics shifts. Superconductivity awakens, allowing quantum computers to process data using the extreme stillness of near-total molecular freeze. Deep within the Arctic permafrost sits humanity's ultimate backup plan, a vault cut into stone where natural ice preserves millions of crop seeds against global catastrophe.
But our mastery over cold came at a terrible cost. Midgley's miracle Freon molecules drifted into the stratosphere, where sunlight broke them apart to devour the planet's ozone shield. A cruel thermodynamic paradox emerged. The more we cool our indoor spaces, the more heat we dump into our cities, driving local temperatures higher in a vicious feedback loop. Cooling now consumes nearly 20% of all global electricity. To maintain our artificial winter, we burn fossil fuels that accelerate the warming of the natural world. Today, the great ice sheets that shaped human history are disappearing at speeds that shock even the scientists studying them. As glaciers thaw, we lose not just sea level stability, but the ancient atmospheric record,
The library of Earth's deep past is melting before we can read its final pages. Now, scientists are racing to engineer synthetic cold, using localized geoengineering, artificial cloud whitening, and high-tech snow production to patch the planet's failing thermal shield. Ice made our modern world possible. It transformed where we can live, what we can eat, and how long we survive. But as our natural ice vanishes, we face a stark reality. We can build all the artificial winter we want, but we cannot live without the real thing.